podcast. Welcome into the VOLatile podcast, everyone. This is your weekly reminder that being a Vols fan is a terminal diagnosis that we all share. I'm here with Full House today. Nick, how are you doing today, man?
Doing well. Just wrapped up a little Christmas, getting ready for the new year. Looking forward to watching Tennessee play some football and basketball this next week.
Absolutely. Joe, how about yourself?
All doing great. Sickness is past in the household. Everybody's doing well. And looking forward to an SEC Tennessee team whooping on a much worse Big Ten team.
Let's go. All right, Jeff, how are you doing, man?
Matt, good recovery there to start the episode. Doing great. We got big news last week. God became flesh, dwelt among us, came to save his people from their sins. Turns out he's reigning over the whole cosmos. We're so back, baby. Let's go.
Amen. Let's go. Let's go. Amen. All right. Well, obviously, big news here is the Music City Bowl. We play tomorrow. Listener, when you're listening to this, it'll probably will be tomorrow. Tomorrow at 4:30 on ESPN. So we're going to cover that game in detail today. We're going to start, though, with kind of latest news in Vol football world. Since last time we recorded, Rodney Garner has said that he is coming back. He will not be getting poached by Alex Golesh at Auburn or anywhere else. So that's big news. And then also on a sadder note, Joshua Josephs and Colton Hood are not going to be playing in the Music City Bowl tomorrow. They opted out for NFL combine purposes. So we'll see how those guys do. Obviously, best of luck to them in their NFL careers. Guys, let's start with the Music City Bowl. So game tomorrow, 4:30 versus Illinois. Let me just get your initial thoughts on where you're at with this game. Like, are you excited? Are you not? Does this game matter at all? Jeff, why don't you kick us off, man?
100% of my excitement is that I'm getting together with y'all to watch it. I would have it on, if we weren't doing that. But that's the sum total of my excitement. I was thinking today, after having seen the weather for Nashville tomorrow, I honestly think I would turn down tickets to this bowl game. If somebody called me out of the blue and said, hey, I've got great seats for free, you want to go? And I'd be like, I got a thing. It's just so miserable to be back at the Music City Bowl with this team after this season. So,
well, I can't sympathize with you there because if someone calls me right now, listener, if you're listening, you have tickets, give me a call. I'm ditching y'all in a heartbeat to go watch. So,
I would love to see the shot of Mac in the Nissan Stadium looking like Jack Nicholson's character at the end of The Shining.
Oh man, Nick, what about you? You excited for the game? You think it matters or no?
I am excited for the game. I am always excited to watch Tennessee suit up and play football. So be wearing the stormtroopers for the last Nike game in the Nike era.
That's a good point.
So that'll be welcome departure, I think. But maybe that's a conversation debate for another day, off season, Nike versus Adidas. But I will be excited to watch them play. Overall, I think these games matter from the point of view of younger players getting to play. We've talked about these opt-outs. And so I think it'll be exciting to watch some of the younger guys hopefully step up and play ball. But in the grand scheme of things, as far as the program overall, I don't think it matters a lot. So, but I'll be excited to watch my team play, and I'll be excited to watch the young guys. So I think it matters, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah. Can we come back after Joe throws his first sense in the hopper to that idea of young players playing?
Yeah. Well, let me just I don't really have much to add here except to say, obviously I'm always excited to watch Tennessee play football. Football is my sport. Like you guys are really much more like in tune with basketball. I really enjoy baseball, but football is the sport that I love. And so it's quickly, college football is quickly coming to a close. The pros will come to a close not long after that. And then there's just sort of the long, dark winter that is actually summer until football starts again. So, for me, it's trying to hold on to as much football as possible. But as far as, actually being excited about the game, I've got similar thoughts to Jeff about, I don't know. I think I'd also be turning down tickets. Nah, that's a lie. I'd definitely go. But, it's I don't know. Let's get into. Mac, are you excited to watch the game?
Yeah, no, I am. I think kind of like Nick said, I'm excited to see younger guys get some playing time. Excited to see what they look like. Brett Bielema, former coach at Arkansas, like I'm excited to see us play him again. And I don't know. I think the matchup's kind of fun. I mean, Illinois doesn't really move the needle as a program for me, but just with a little bit of overlap with Brett Bielema and Luke Altmaier being a former SEC QB and stuff like that, I'm just kind of interested, and I hope we play well. So.
Well, it is interesting in the the way they talk about in combat sports that styles make matches, and it really does look like the bowl. Whoever puts the bowl things together figured out a way to be like, these are the exact same teams. Let's see which one of them is better at the thing that they both do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Jeff, if you're cool, I guess I'm going to go ahead into like matchup looking at that, or did you want to add something else to the?
Well, I just wanted to note one of the reasons I'm down on the bowl is that it's a classic Tennessee scenario where what Nick has said is right. I mean, really, we need to see what the future holds. So we should be playing a ton of young guys, right? But we're in this scenario where Josh Heupel can't afford to go into the offseason 8-5 rather than 9-4. So he's going to play as many old guys as he can. He wants to get Joey over the threshold. He's got to have a 200-yard game. He wants to get him 9th on the passing list for a single season. I've heard that he's trying to get him a Senior Bowl invite, boost his opportunities in the NFL. Those are all good things for him to do. You've got Deshaun Bishop needing to get over 1,000, which he should pretty easily. But you're just in this scenario again where even the thing I would like to see what George McIntyre looks like for most of a game or whatever that is, we're actually probably not going to get to see a ton of that because we've got all these other motivations that work against that need. And so I just don't know how Tennessee finds itself in these scenarios. They have nothing to play for. The thing they most need to do, they really can't because they've got to pay kind of honor to the guys who are here for the season. I don't know, maybe other programs have this, but I feel like we just constantly walk into scenarios where there's no win. It's just it's lose, and Tennessee doesn't have a good opportunity to do something positive. But
on that note, I mean, bowl games have the way that the sport has sort of evolved over the last 10 years. These bowl games, the way that they generally matter to fans is that you get a preview of next season, right? Like that's kind of one of the
that was Nico against Iowa, right?
Right. I was just thinking, we were stoked when Nico played against Iowa. Was it 2 years? I guess it was 2 years ago.
2023.
And
best game
was
ever played at Tennessee.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember we were all just super invested in that, right? Like we really wanted to see that. And to Jeff's point, we were actually talking off air before we everybody got online, but Jeff and I were just like, we're not even going to get to see the most important position on your team is the quarterback, right? And if Tennessee doesn't come out and just absolutely curb stomp the Fighting Illini in the first quarter, you're not going to get to see that, right? So it's just one of those. Exactly what you just said, Jeff. It's a lose. It feels like a lose-lose, which is classic.
It's the
Tennessee.
Kiss Your Sister Bowl. You got a kiss, but it was your sister.
And this seems like an appropriate place to plug. This is just your weekly reminder that being a Vols fan is a terminal diagnosis that we all share. You're in this with us. All right.
If I can mitigate the black pilling here just a little bit, I also told Joe in that off-air conversation, I guess we do of necessity get to see that with the defense. So you're going to have your fourth-string cornerback being your number one cornerback. I am excited to see Perlotti and Thielander. We'll get some idea of who the pass rusher in waiting is because they're missing their starting is it their starting left tackle?
Yes.
Their starting left tackle opted out. So Joshua Joseph's opted out too, but somebody needs to come up and eat right in that scenario. So I guess we get to see some stuff on the defense, but even that's mitigated because it's not the new defensive coordinator. So like you don't even get to know like, oh, will that carry over to next year or not? Guys, I'm telling you, it's rough out here.
Hey, let's just run it up. Let's just run it up and see everybody play.
Yep.
We go.
And I think you guys make all good points. Like, there's a lot of logic behind what you're saying. It's just the sheep in me, I guess, that gets excited anyways, and is going to probably, be
Same
thrilled
brother.
with a win and be, I won't be devastated, but I'll definitely be disappointed if we lose. So, let's get into
the thing too, man. Like before we move on,
go ahead.
I'm going to be totally invested in this game.
Right.
If I'm going to be entirely frustrated when they're making stupid plays. If they lose, which spoiler alert, I think is probably likely, I'm going to spend the long dark winter of the summer just being overly depressed by a game that I know doesn't matter.
Where's the Tylenol?
I am chiseled up on this.
Oh me. All right. Well, let's get into the matchup here. So obviously, listener, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but this game features two unranked 8-4 teams. Illinois being from the Big Ten, Tennessee from the SEC. I was actually listening to Big Ten Network earlier today, trying to get some behind enemy lines coverage, and one of the guys on there was saying that if Illinois wins this game, then this will be their 19th win in the last 2 seasons, so 2024, 2025, and that'll be the first time in program history they've won 19 games over the span of any 2 years.
Good. Properly motivated.
They've got something to play for.
Right.
So Jeff's point, they have something to play for.
Yes. So I think that Illinois is going to want to win. I think this is Luke Altmaier's last game playing an SEC team. I think they're going to want to win, and so I do think that, to your point, Jeff, while it's going to be, you're going to be invested emotionally and want to win and going to be frustrated if we lose. I do think that Illinois is going to have something to play for. So even though they're not the best team and we are the more talented team, I do think that a win in this game does say something about the character of your program, given the fact we have so many opt-outs and whatnot. So if Tennessee comes out and wins, I'm going to be really pleased. But throughout the year,
principle holds true, though, Mac, that it says something about the character of your team. If they don't, but enough about Vanderbilt.
So Tennessee was ranked throughout this season. Obviously, our highest ranking in the CFP was 19. Illinois made it all the way up to 21. So you're looking at 2 teams who were kind of on the back end of the top 25 according to the college football playoff rankings. Anything to add there, guys? Or are we cool to jump into Illinois' keys to victory?
It's interesting that Altman. Go ahead, Nick. My bad.
Oh, I was just going to say, to tack on to the 19 wins over 2 years. I also saw that these back-to-back, so they've gone back-to-back 8-4 regular seasons this year and last year, and that's the first time that's happened since 1989 and 1990 for this program. So that was the year I was born and the year I turned 1. So
thanks for connecting those dots for me, because I was like, then what would the next year be?
Raise your hand if you were not alive yet.
Math is not my strong point. Yeah. I was 43 those years.
I was about to say Jeff already had like 4 kids by that point. So
I think there's an added interesting element that Altmaier was apparently legitimately of interest to Tennessee last year and ended up choosing something different. I mean, of course, I think that probably makes him more motivated to come out and have a good showing. Like, look at what you missed. But that's a unique storyline in the portal era, and one that, it's just it's an interesting point. I don't know what to make of it beyond he'll probably be more motivated to beat the team.
Yeah. So I jotted a few things down for keys to victory, and I figure I'll just lay out what I have here, and then you guys feel free to disagree with it or agree with it. But I kind of did 3 keys to victory for both teams, and I also did along the same lines, like what needs to happen for Illinois to win, what needs to happen for Tennessee to win. So let's start with Illinois. I jotted down kind of 3 keys to victory just based on, I've watched them play some games. I only watched them play 1 game live, but I watched them play a few games, in preparation for this bowl game on YouTube. So 3 keys to victory. Here's what I laid out. Illinois is going to try and control the game, the tempo of the game with the run. They're going to try and, hit the underneath passing routes a lot. That's, pretty common for Big Ten play. I don't think that's anything groundbreaking, but obviously if Illinois can control the tempo of the game with the run, I do think that is very much so in their favor. The next thing I had was limiting explosive plays on defense for Illinois, and then surviving Tennessee's tempo. So, Tennessee obviously is going to try and get the offense going quickly and going to try and run up the score as much as they can, as early as they can. And so if Illinois can stop the explosive plays and make Tennessee go on long drives, I think that's going to help them win the game. And the last thing is just kind of the mental side of the game. So, they cannot survive a lot of turnovers. So they're going to have to play disciplined. They cannot survive, turning the ball over on their own half of the field, giving Tennessee short yardage. And then motivation, right? I do think that Illinois has more to play for than Tennessee. Big Ten, hates the SEC probably more than the SEC hates the Big Ten. I think we commonly think of them as like little brother, So Illinois has a lot to play for here, and so if they can win the mental game of being disciplined, having good field position, and playing motivated, I think that will help Illinois win. So guys, let's talk about those three things. Let's go back to controlling the game with the run and short passing games. Anybody have anything to add there?
Well, we already know that that's a proven recipe of success. That's how Alabama beat us, right? I mean, they went on long, sustained drives on offense, kept our offense off the field, controlled the game, limited explosive plays, and then they got turnovers, right? And I know that people say this stuff on like podcasts and national radio shows and stuff, and you're like, yeah, of course, if you do that, you're going to win the football game. But we say it because it works, and now obviously Illinois and Alabama, the gap between those two teams on a talent level is quite wide. But if they're able to do the same thing, I think we should expect a similar result.
Well, to that point, Joe, thinking about what we've already seen this season, trying to find parallels to this bowl game, I think the closest one is the Mississippi State game. And Mississippi State almost won because their running backs did whatever they wanted, right? Like that's when we're talking about these are the same style teams, we've done that with Mississippi State, and it was by the skin of your teeth that you win. Part of it being that we couldn't do anything with our running backs.
And they really coached themselves out of that game, right? I mean, we were walking out of the stadium going, I can't believe they didn't hand the ball off at the end of the game, So
I think that just to add on to what has been said, which I agree with, is from what I have seen when I have watched Illinois, and from what I've read about them, even as extra prep for this episode, it sounds like a classic Brett Bielema team, right? They want to run the ball. They want to play tough defense. They don't want you to throw the ball all over the place. They want to stop the very things that we want to do. And when they've played high-powered offenses, and this is kind of getting into Tennessee's keys a little bit, but when they've played high-powered offenses, they have not fared well this year. And so assuming Tennessee has any motivation at all, like we've talked about, then they should be able to move the ball on them. So,
well, let me ask this, and I'm really not trying to be a doomer, but this bleeds into Mac's point about running tempo. How confident are we that we are a fast tempo, high octane offense this year? And I say that because no immediate example is coming to mind, but I spent a lot of the season being like screaming at the TV going, go fast, go fast, go fast. Why aren't we running tempo? Mm-hmm. And we didn't run tempo. So like, how confident are we that this is something that Heupel is going to bring out of the bag?
Yeah, not super confident. I mean, we did that against Georgia is the one clear example I can think of, and we scored a lot of points. And so they also had the ball a lot as well, because whether you're going 3 and out or whether you're scoring fast, you're giving the ball back to the opponent. And so Georgia also scored a lot. But I don't believe that Illinois is a team that has that kind of high-powered offense. So it seems to me if you have the ability to do that, this would be a game that you would do that in. And so I actually think that'll tell us some about some more on top of the massive body of work we already have this year about Josh Heupel's ability to game plan. And, I definitely think they'll probably come out and go fast first couple drives. They usually have pretty well scripted drives to open up the game, but we'll see how that does. Can they sustain that for more than just first couple drives in the first quarter? I think we'll see them go fast to start. Can they keep that going?
So, yeah, I hope you're right. According to AI Overview here, Tennessee's offense was sixth fastest in FBS play. The two fastest FBS teams were Florida Atlantic.
Probably Ole Miss, right?
No, it was. There were two teams that. Where did that go? Oh, here we go. Florida Atlantic and South Florida were averaging 21.4 seconds per play. And that, according to this, that was only slightly faster than us. So if you get rid of those, really low FBS teams, right? So in as far as the P4, we're one of the fastest. We're in the top 4 fastest P4 offenses. But it's funny because I wasn't anticipating that as I was looking it up. I thought we were going to be slower because I had my read on the season was similar to yours.
Yep.
Yeah, my read on the season was similar to yours. Like I felt like we were slower than usual, and I just assumed that was because we had Joey, who had got there in April, and that takes time. But apparently, we were still pretty fast. I don't know.
So to my naked eye, they look. To my naked eye this year, Tennessee looks faster than they have the last 2 years with Nico and with Joe.
I think that's fair.
But I think we were all just super spoiled. I don't know that we'll ever go as fast as we went with Hendon for whatever reason. Hendon's high IQ and ability to just master that offensive system or whatnot. But that team just went so unbelievably fast. I think Heupel's teams will probably always kind of be like top 10 in speed. But unless one of the young guys, GMAC or Faison, is some kind of savant, I don't know that anybody will go that fast in the Heupel era again. I would love for that to be true, but I think that everything looks slower compared to that 22 team.
That's a really good point, Nick. Let me ask you this. That was Hendon's second year in the system, right? That we went just incredibly fast.
Right.
I wonder how long it'll be till we have apples to compare to apples on that. When are we going to have 2 years of
Is someone going to play 2 years in the system again? Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe never.
Yeah, which technically Nico did in the sense that he was on the team for 1 year. I mean, to me, that's the real. I mean, I'm probably not saying anything shocking here, but that last year is the year that's most shocking of anything, just because of not how highly touted Nico was supposed to be, but the fact that he had a whole year to get ready, and they just oftentimes looked like they didn't know what they were doing when they were lining up on the offensive side of the ball. So,
yep, yeah, absolutely. So the second point that I already said, the key to victory for Illinois is limiting explosive plays and surviving Tennessee's tempo, which we already kind of talked about the tempo here. Nick mentioned, Illinois not wanting to get up big pass plays. And so, from what I've gathered from Illinois' season is that they really struggle defensively. And so I do think that if Tennessee can, have explosive plays, especially downfield passes, I think it's going to be a long day for Illinois. But if they can limit that, we've already seen Tennessee's inability to go on sustained drives and to, consistently hit underneath passing routes, to line up without having a false start, things like that. Like if they can force us to run more plays per drive, then I think that bodes well for Illinois. Y'all have anything to add to that?
You think weather impacts it? It's a night game on a cold day. Illinois has played in the cold more than we have. Frozen footballs, things like that. Does that impact the ability to hit particularly big passing plays?
The answer should be no, but I don't know that that's the real answer. I think it definitely has an impact. I mean, a lot of us have played football and played cold weather games, and it does impact you in some way, but then it just comes back to how bad do you want it? How willing are you to not make an excuse and just keep playing the game? So I'd like to think that these guys are, D1, basically professional athletes getting paid. Yep. And so I would like to think that, they are willing to overcome that and deal with it and run the offense as is. I mean, they've played in the cold. Like not everybody on the team has, they've played a lot of football. They've played high school football. They've played football at other schools that are in the cold. Like that should not be a factor. But to your point, it definitely may be.
Yeah, I think that with Brazel not playing and the two other receivers being young guys that are probably, I would imagine, hoping to assert themselves even more in Matthews and Staley, and this potentially being Joey's last game, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, I see that there's more reason to have motivation for just the Tennessee players, the dudes that are on the offensive side of the ball. I really think it comes down to, will they protect Joey? Because Illinois had a pretty good pass rush. Now their best rusher, as we've spoken about in previous episodes, is opting out because he's probably going to be a decent draft pick in the NFL. I think he led the Big Ten in sacks this year. And so, I think that there should be more motivation on the offensive side of the ball. I think we all would believe that Bishop's always ready to play, regardless of who they're going to play. He just always finds a way to motivate himself and run hard. So I'm less worried, as probably we have been all year, about the offensive side of the ball than I am motivation on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, we have our offensive line. If we're bringing anything intact into the game, it's the offensive line. So that's a positive. I'm really looking for positives. I will tell you that I don't think a frozen brick of a football is going to be good for Mike Matthews' penchant to drop balls inexplicably.
I was going to jump in when you were talking about the receivers, because do we have confidence in this receiving core? I've always been kind of more down on them than even Vol media generally has been. I remember coming out of the Mississippi State game. They were just gushing over the receivers, and I was just like, I don't know. I feel like we haven't really had a standout wideout in a few years, and Matthews in particular. I've always sort of, every time we throw him the ball, in my head, I'm like, it's 50-50 whether he catches it or not. I think Staley's really a much more reliable set of hands. But
yeah, he was a freshman offensive player of the year, right?
Staley. I would definitely say I have confidence in Staley, and I definitely don't have confidence in Mike Matthews.
Yeah, okay. Matthews is underperformed. I think what we probably all thought, and I think Staley's overperformed. What we all thought.
Yeah, I would agree.
So to me, it's kind of a wash. Staley's more like what I thought Matthews would be, and Matthews more like what I thought Staley would be. So Staley basically won that football game in Mississippi on that last drive.
Yeah, he did.
So
what's the I guess he's the fourth wide receiver. He's a young guy. Is it Jackson?
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There has consistently been kind of this version of what you heard for years about Ethan Davis with him. Boy, in practice, he looks like a monster. Boy, when he gets his shot, he's going to blow up. I keep hearing that about that kid, and there's a reason he's not playing. But I guess if I'm going to desperately claw after hope, maybe we see another receiver emerge because somebody's got to take Brazel's snaps, right? And even if they get Kitzelman back, like it's rumored, he's not been very consistent this year catching the ball either. Maybe we get a chance to be like, oh my goodness, the wide receiver room is much more healthy than we thought. We don't have to worry about that nearly as much going into the portal. Maybe.
I know we joke about Ethan Davis too, but we probably will see the tight ends be pretty active in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if they try to get Van Dorselaer more involved. I think he's going to be a good player regardless of, the drop against Vanderbilt. But, I wouldn't be shocked with Brazel gone if we just see the tight ends be incorporated more.
It's Rodarius Jackson, Jeff, to your point.
Rodarius Jackson.
Rodarius, yep. All good points, guys. I think that's good. Another thing I had written down with this, limiting explosive plays and for Illinois surviving our tempo, is Illinois just cannot let one bad quarter decide the game. So obviously, we know that and anybody who's a diehard fan like us knows that Tennessee tends to dominate the first quarter. Doesn't matter how good or how bad the competition is. Tennessee covers the first quarter spread in most games. Josh Heupel does a really good job of scripting the opening drive and executing plays early in the game. So if Tennessee comes out and hangs 14-21 on Illinois in the first quarter, I think that bodes really, really poorly for Illinois because they don't have the weapons offensively and the play style offensively to be able to recover from that. So for Illinois, they've got to set the flow of the game defensively early and keep Tennessee at bay, or else it could end up being a long night for Illinois, I think.
From your lips to God's ears.
Let it be, Lord.
Yep. And the last thing for Illinois key to victory was the win the mental game. So, discipline, field position, motivation, anything to add there?
No, man. Good for them. Let's let all that fall apart right in their face.
Yeah. So to sum it up here, what has to happen in order for Illinois to win? What has to happen? So I like to, this is from Josh Pate does this on his show where he talks about what has to happen in the game? Yeah, what has to happen in the game for for whatever team to win? Kind of think about if you were coaching Illinois, what would you need to happen? And so, kind of what I wrote here, and feel free to again kind of disagree with this or change something in it. But what I wrote was Illinois wins this game only if it stays ugly. So Tennessee they have to make Tennessee make mistakes, and the Illini have to still be in the game at halftime. If it's a lopsided score at halftime or at the end of the first quarter, I don't see them coming back.
I think that makes sense. I just wouldn't describe it as it needs to be ugly. I think the best case scenario for Illinois is it's a constant shootout and they get the ball last. So I wouldn't call that an ugly game. If both offenses think everything's happening the way they want it to, and both defenses are on their heels, I think it's possibly likely that Illinois tries to have a game where oh, it's okay, they scored, let's go out and go hard and try to score and just win a shootout. That would be what I'd be aiming for if I were on their side of the ball.
Yeah, I think they've just got to run the ball and retain possession. I think they don't want Tennessee to have a lot of possessions. I think they want to have long, sustained drives, and go on a long drive, score a touchdown, and hope you get Tennessee to go 3 and out and get the ball back, go on another long drive. So I think that's probably what they want to do and probably what they need to do to win.
Yeah, if they run that Alabama, keys to victory against us and are successful, I don't like our chances. I just don't.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's move on to Tennessee. So some of these are going to kind of be the inverse of what we've kind of talked about. But the first key to victory I had for Tennessee is starting fast and forcing Illinois out of its comfort zone. So we kind of already touched on that. Pretty obvious there. That's what Tennessee wants to do. If Tennessee's able to execute that and do that, I think Tennessee has a great chance to win the game. This is kind of more specific to Tennessee's play style and what we've seen this year. Tennessee has to win on first down, and that's on both sides of the ball. So we know, and the stats prove, when Josh Heupel gets the ball, the first play of a new possession, if we are able to get a positive play on first down or, get that first down, then we usually go down and score. Even if we have to settle for a field goal or something, we are usually getting some points out of a drive that we can get a first down. So I think first down is going to be huge for Tennessee offensively. We cannot have these incomplete passes on first down, setting up 2nd and 10. We obviously can't have negative rushing plays on first down. And on the opposite side of the ball for defense, if Tennessee can make Illinois, run for no to minimal gain on first down, making it, 2nd and long, forcing Illinois to, sit in the pocket and pass, I like Tennessee's chances if they're able to control first down on both sides of the ball. The last thing I had key to victory is creating explosive plays. So, Illinois is going to try and stop those. Tennessee needs to create those explosive plays, and in parentheses I put, and avoid dumb mistakes, right? So it feels like so often that, we have an explosive play, but it's called back because of, a holding or because a legal man downfield with the receivers blocking, something like that tends to come back and bite us on our explosive plays. So if Tennessee can get those explosive plays, then I think that really bodes well for us. Anything to add there or anything to comment on those guys?
I would add a key to victory, I guess I have in my head, would be that our defense does just enough. Some team is going to have one defensive stand, right? That's probably enough to win the game for their team. Remind an old man, what's the name of our interim defensive coordinator?
William Inge.
They said that what he was looking to do was run a lot of base defense and just let guys read and react. And so the ideal scenario there is that you would have a couple guys who are playing a little bit more backyard style, young guys who are athletic. Again, I'm thinking about T-Lander. I'm thinking about, I can't remember anybody's name, but our starting cornerback, the freshman who played all year.
Ty Redmond.
Like the defense has done a decent job individually of creating turnovers. So maybe if guys are feeling like they can play a little bit more free, they can ball hawk a little bit more. They do just enough to either rob a possession, steal a crucial down, something like that. one team is going to have to do it. I think that's essential to either team. Somebody's defense does just enough to slow the other team to give their side the victory.
I'll add my own 2 cents here. So you've got starting fast and then creating explosive plays on both those fronts. When I was doing my research for the episode, one of the things that I noticed is that Illinois' defense, I think, has some real holes in the intermediate middle of the field. So one of the things that I noticed is that the good teams, when they play at Ohio State, when they play at Indiana, they were exposing them, intermediate. So we're talking 10, 15, 20 yards down the field, over the middle. Their guys were just running free. And of course, their O-line was giving their quarterback enough time to stand in the pocket and find those wide open receivers. And so, I like that our O-line is coming back, and so we should have good protection. They're losing their best pass rusher, and so as far as creating explosive plays, I don't think they have to be these fly routes down the sidelines. Obviously, those are good, and if you can get those, you're going to have a greater return on your investment there, so to speak. But I think the middle of the field, and which we tend to, we don't do that as well as other teams do. I think, we have limited success, but I think exposing Illinois' defense in the intermediate over the middle of the field is a real opportunity. And if we can do that consistently, I think those are just daggers. 15, 20 yards, boom, 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 boom. You're just matriculating down the field. I mean, it just steals the soul of a defense, So I think that's.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's if I'm running the offense, we're running the ball to free up the middle of the field to get 15-yard passes. I mean, that's how I'm running the game.
What that translates to me, Joe, is that means if Staley has a big game, then we win the game. If that's the crux of it. So, like, if you're a degenerate gambler out there and there's some prop bet on Staley's performance,
not in Tennessee.
If you feel really good about our chances to win this game, you should probably bet on Staley to have a big game.
Drive to Kentucky and bet on that. Anyways, yeah. So I agree, Joe. I think that's a good point. And to your point, Joe, that is not something, as we kind of already discussed. I think Illinois is going to try and force those shorter routes as opposed to the deeper routes. The question becomes exactly what you said and what Nick kind of said earlier. Can we protect Joey well enough to have time to make those passes? If so, if we're able to beat Illinois in the intermediate passing game, then I think we're also going to open up the run game, the deep shots. I think everything's going to be clicking if you get that clicking. So I
think that's the sort of the corner, the keystone in the bridge, right? If that keystone is in, everything else falls into place. But if that keystone is out, I mean, I think then it really is just hat on hat, and who wants it more. And I don't prefer our chances in hat on hat who wants it more. I think hat on hat who wants it more serves Illinois, not Tennessee.
Well, then do y'all disagree with my point that it's basically Staley or bust? Because he's the only one that I have any confidence in intermediate routes. Kitzelman may be back. I don't have confidence in him there. I definitely don't have confidence in Matthews in the intermediate, even though he's a big, huge dude who ought to be able to basically box out and catch those balls. It seems like that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. That's why I want to hear your thoughts. Like, it seems like that is only Staley's opportunity and nobody else.
Yeah, I do think that he's the most proven guy running those routes, right? I mean, Ethan Davis kind of came on towards the end of the year. So I think that you could see some stuff with him. But probably primarily Staley, and then dark horse, some stuff with Ethan Davis. But if they can't protect Joey, then none of that will matter. But
sure.
I think they should be able to do that with our unit coming back intact and their best guy opting out. he should have time. If he doesn't have time, then it's just going to get real bad real quick.
Yep.
So.
And I agree. The only person that you left off that I would say could have an impact, Jeff, is Ethan Davis, which I know I'm probably a little higher on than you are. I wouldn't say the verbiage you use there is, do I have confidence, in Ethan Davis to run those routes, catch those balls? The answer is no. I don't have confidence in him to do that. But if I'm trying to be as objective as possible and taking what he's done this year, it seems like he's gotten better as the year's gone on. The more he's played, the better he's gotten. And the last handful of games, even some against good competition, he played well. And so I'd like to think that he's going to be a factor when it comes to these intermediate routes and catching the ball over the middle. And I think obviously he has a chance to prove that. But that's what Nick's saying about the line protecting Joey. Another key aspect, I think, will be, can Deshaun Bishop and I'm blanking the backup running back.
Thomas.
Yes,
Morris.
Thank you.
Morris. Yeah.
Yeah. If Morris and Bishop can protect in pass pro Joey, I think that is huge for us. It seems like the biggest sacks and the biggest kind of leverage plays that we've given up this year have been when our running backs do not do their job in pass pro. And so the line hasn't been as good as I'd hoped this year, but I do think that the running backs have not pulled their weight when it comes to pass pro. And so if they have a good game blocking, I think that will help us out a lot in these intermediate routes.
Nick went to Star Thomas there. It is just so weird how he's completely an afterthought at this point,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And there's nothing that I think Heupel can do for him the way he can Joey this game to be like, Star gets featured and he gets a Senior Bowl invite or anything. I just think that ship sailed. So maybe we see him. It's just hard to believe we will.
Yeah, I agree completely. I honestly, like you said, I completely forgot about Star Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Peyton Lewis is out, so I kind of, in my mind, he was the number 2 coming into this game, and now that he's transferring, I think of Morris as the next guy up. Even though Star Thomas has better film this year, but to your point, Jeff, I just don't know how much run he's actually going to get in this game. So. All right, guys, and the last thing with regards to the Music City Bowl, kind of talking about the key points of the game, was what has to happen in order for Tennessee to win. So what I kind of wrote here, and obviously feel free to, adapt this or edit it however you see fit. What I wrote was Tennessee wins only if they score early, create negative plays on defense. That could be, obviously like sacks or tackles for loss, or even creating turnovers, and then executing on third down inside the red zone. I think if Tennessee can get down into the red zone and can score touchdowns, I think that Illinois is not going to win. I mean, period. I think if we're getting in the red zone and we're putting the ball in the end zone, it's going to be a long game. But if they're making us settle for field goals, if we're not picking up third downs when they get us in those, then we're going to really struggle.
You don't want to put the game on Max Gilbert's shoulder?
No.
Oh. I'm stunned.
Okay.
I just go with the plot. Mac, that sounds exactly right. I think that's exactly right. I mean, I go back. Was it who said that we have to limit? I think it was you, Mac. We have to limit stupid pre-snap stuff.
Yes.
I probably think that's the biggest factor in accomplishing what you just laid out. I don't really have a lot of confidence in their defense. And if Tennessee can just be disciplined, maybe for the first time in forever, that would be wonderful. That would probably
that was horrible.
That was not on my bingo card for this podcast.
Listen, when you're sitting at home on a holiday break with a bunch of young daughters, that's going to show up in your ear. If not, if you're not sitting down to watch it, even. So if we could be disciplined for once in a blue moon, I mean, it's probably a pretty fun game for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's been almost 100 years, and General Neyland is still right. The first maxim is the team that makes the fewest mistakes will win.
Amen. Amen. All right, next
we rank, if just to tie a bow on that, if anybody cares, we rank really high in pre-snap penalties and have since Heupel
always.
Over. I mean,
always.
Part of that is hearing of this.
Yeah, it's always going to be a problem. It seems like it's always going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're real bad. We're real bad. So,
yeah.
I won't tell you how bad, but it's bad.
And not to minimize that, because it is a problem and it needs to be mitigated as much as possible. But we knew that when we hired Josh Heupel, that was going to be a natural side effect of what he does on offense. Like we knew that was part of he has never coached anywhere that his offenses are really good when it comes to pre-snap penalties. I think that's just part of the nature of the beast when you get into running
going
tempo.
Fast. There's a lot going on.
Exactly. I just think but to your point, Joe, where it kills us is when, we're in really important possessions or really important down and distances, and then that's happening. If we're moving the ball down the field and it's first down, we can overcome it. But when it's third down and we're on our own 40, it's hard to overcome that. So we just got to be smart about when we make those mistakes and when we don't.
Sure.
Or the Georgia scenario, like we could have beaten Georgia. I know it is on Max's shoulders. I get all that. I'm not trying to minimize his failure, but that's the exact scenario that cost us the Georgia game. And if we win the Georgia game, I mean, this, it could totally just be a different season.
Totally I think it totally changes the trajectory of the entire season. Yeah, I do.
Gosh,
I can't do that.
I did not want to think about that again. I still cannot believe we kicked on third down. Anyways, okay. Run the ball. Yeah. All right. So the next thing I had was touching on gambling, which for a listener, you may or may not be into sports gambling. All the guys on here are not really into it. Joe's dabbled a little bit this season. So, but I did want to make a note.
Dabbled. I watched him spend a whole road trip like a fiend.
It was free money. It was free money.
Like, Jeff, slow down. You're crossing the state line too quick. I got to get my bets in. He's dabbling.
That's the addicts.
It's like a drug addict leaving a state where it's legal. Like, hurry, get it in before we.
That's the addict's anthem right there. It was free money, It actually was, listener, but anyways. So the line opened for Tennessee favored at 6.5. It's down all the way to 2.5. I think a lot of that has to do with, of course, like all the things we're saying, where Tennessee's got probably more impactful opt-outs across the board, and then also
replace the defensive coordinator.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a lot to do with it. So, guys, if you were gambling, if you did have to place a bet on this, who are you taking against the spread? It's Tennessee minus 2.5. You like Tennessee to cover that, or do you like Illinois to cover that? Jeff, let's start with you.
My heart would want to take the over. I just can't. I just don't have any confidence in this team to win games.
Sorry, when you say the over, are you referring to Tennessee to cover?
Well, I would, if I were betting, like my hope would be that we exceed the spread.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
I think that this team definitely could. Like that's I love the Vols answer. I couldn't actually put real money on that scenario. So do they cover? I mean, I think if we win by more than 3 points. If we don't win by more than 3 points, then we're probably losing. So I'm nobody's gambler, but it seems boom or bust for us.
So I want to know, final answer, who you got to cover?
I mean, assuming, again, gun to my head, I'm going to pick Illinois to win. So I would have to say that Tennessee does not cover.
Okay, Illinois plus 2.5 for Jeff. Joe, what do you got?
Tennessee covers. I mean, at 2.5. Now at 6.5, but Tennessee's going to win by field goal. If we don't, the next couple of podcasts are going to be rough. They're going to be rough. I got Tennessee covering at 2.5.
Nick?
I think Tennessee covers not just the 2.5, but the original 6.5 point spread.
Hey, my man.
Well, again, from your lips to God's ears, believe me, that's what I want. I just don't have a lot of confidence in this version.
No, Jeff, I appreciate the honesty, and I do think that obviously I think there's a scenario that Illinois wins this game.
Super possible.
I am putting a bet on Tennessee to cover the spread, and I already have Tennessee alt spread at 9.5. I think Tennessee could win by 2 possessions. So I think that's possible.
I think that's how Tennessee wins. If Tennessee wins, it's a big win.
That's a fair point, Jeff. Right. So like if they're going to win in your head, like if we win, we're winning by 2 scores. But if we're not winning by 2 scores, we're losing. That's where you're at.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Right. No, I get it. Brutal. I get it. So best bet, listener, if you are into gambling and you're interested in putting a bet on this game, I found one line that I think is an absolute lock. And so I will take the what's the word, Joe? Flagellation? Flagellating?
Just flagellate, not flatulate. That's
right,
a very different thing.
One's farting, one's beating yourself, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I'll take the beating yourself option. If I'm wrong on this, you guys can really, just let me have it. But best bet for this
cover
game,
their bets. You'll cover their bets.
No. I don't have the money, but I can do some sort of punishment. So Tennessee's first
Hey, I like this as a segment. Mac gives a bet recommendation, and if it doesn't hit, we do something to him. Perfect. I like it.
Perfect. I love it. Here's the bet. I'm pretty confident. I think for the value, I think this is a lock. So Tennessee and Illinois, the first quarter spread it's a pick 'em. So Tennessee minus a half a point. So basically, at the end of the first quarter, if Tennessee is leading by 1 or leading by 1,000, you win. And these are even odds. So if you put $10 on it, you get $10. I think Tennessee covers the first quarter spread. I think we're up probably 7-0, 10-7, 14-7, something like that at the end of the first quarter. I'm going to put 2 units on it. So I think that's a good bet. And you guys look forward to give me a hard time if I'm wrong. Joe, go ahead.
Well, let me just I'll put my money where my mouth is. I also took Tennessee to cover the first quarter spread. I agree with you. I think it's an absolute lock. And so I will also throw the proverbial hat in the ring. If this bet doesn't hit for you, listener, Jeff and Nick will do awful things to us on this podcast on the next one. Shave our heads or something.
I don't like this because I want Tennessee to win by 50, but it will be a nice consolation to torture the two of you if we don't win.
I generally don't like the thought of having to beat up on my friends. Now, that has not been the case always with Mac. There's been a few road trips where maybe I would have signed up for that.
But if we lose this game, we will be prepared. If we lose this game, we will be prepared to do violence to someone. So that'll be fine.
Hey, listener, follow us on Twitter and put your recommendations for how we ought to be hazed if this bet doesn't hit on Twitter.
Drop that. I was going to say.
Come again.
Drop that handle for us for the Twitter.
The Twitter is at VOLatile_1998.
There you go, listener. So
if you happen to know the person who owns the VOLatile handle, we would love to talk to them.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a volcano podcast that needs to go.
Oh, man. All right.
Hey, before we leave this, Mac.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about listening to you talk about your gambling is how you talk about what you're betting like it's Star Wars droids. I have 2 BB-8 units that I'm going to venture on this wager. It just
it's a 2-unit. It's a 2-unit bet. It's a 2-unit bet.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen Star Wars. But yeah, thank you, I guess, because I know Star Wars is held in high regard for most people. So
I was about to ask you if one of those 2 units speaks bocce. I need one of them to speak bocce.
I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable because I have no idea what that means, but.
But you do know the difference between flatulate and flagellate. So
exactly.
Are we sure? How confident is the pod that Mac knows the difference? Here's the thing. I'm very confident Mac would be willing to flatulate on the podcast. I'm not sure that he would be willing to flagellate on the podcast.
Oh, man. Oh, good gosh.
And I say that as a sympathizer. I would be much more comfortable. Under the same contrast.
Save us. Move on.
All right.
Let's get the final scores.
All right, final score. So everyone's going to give a prediction. Does anybody feel led to go first?
I'll go first.
Nick, let's have it. Let's have your final score.
I feel good about mine. Illinois 27, Vols 38.
Oh, good final score.
Nice.
Which, by the way, for the gamblers out there, also covers the over-under. I think the over-under is at 61.5, so that would be over.
Yeah, it is. I didn't touch that one. I have no idea how this game's going to go in that direction.
It's going to be over.
Jeff, you want to go next?
Yeah, I guess I have to. I'm dooming. I don't think we have anything to play for. I think we probably score on our first drive, and then stuff kind of falls apart when Illinois answers. So, I mean, I hate answering this way because I feel like it puts me in this position like I'm rooting for it or something. But I think we probably lose by a significant margin. I think Illinois does what they want to do. We don't. And so you're looking at something like 28-17 Illinois. And I will be in a colossal funk for months when it happens. It will depress me disproportionately. I just don't believe in this version of the Tennessee Vols.
Joe?
I had us at 34-17. 34-17.
Nice.
That is almost what I went with for Illinois. I dialed it down to 28.
Well, my prediction here is Tennessee 38. I was also on the 38 train with Nick, and then Illini 21. So that's where I think we're going to end up. I think we'll end up winning by a good margin. So yeah, we need to revisit these predictions after the game. We'll kind of talk about who had the worst and who had the best.
I hope it's me. I'm signing up for that.
Jeff's positioned himself to be a nice consolation of if Illinois does win, he's naturally going to be the closest. And if Illinois doesn't win, then he gets to be happy either way. So good on you.
I will not be happy if Illinois wins. There's no joy in Mudtown when the Vols do what I expect the Vols to do.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right. Any other last thoughts on the Music City Bowl before we move on to basketball?
Can we just get Danny White to agree that we never go back to the Music City Bowl? That would be a good prop bet. Is there a new rule created in college football as a product of this game? That would be a great
5 years'
prop
time,
bet.
The Music City Bowl probably won't exist, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a dark consolation.
My final thoughts are just win, baby.
Just win.
Expose the middle of the field. I think if you can expose the middle of the field offensively, I think you're going to have a real day.
Great. All right, so let's move on to basketball. So Tennessee plays tomorrow night. This will probably start during the end of the game. But Tennessee plays South Carolina State tomorrow at 7 p.m. That game's on SEC Network. Don't know much about South Carolina State. Frankly, I'm sure none of you guys really do either. Obviously, Tennessee.
Well, I think they're a historically black college. Is that right? And they're like 1-12. Is that right?
HBCU sounds right. Record, I don't know.
They have won. Yes, they have won one basketball game.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about them until I started thinking about this podcast. And dude, we might be more profitable having an intra-squad scrimmage than playing this team. It should be a bloodbath.
Cade Phillips, injured, could beat this team by himself.
Wow.
Hey, I could beat this team. That's how bad I can beat this team.
Oh, jeez.
I believe it.
South Carolina State has a lot of pride, boys. Let's not denigrate our opponent here. So
they're 1-12. Denigrated themselves.
Yeah,
they've won one more college basketball game than the four of us this year.
They're champions of life. They're all right. All right. So the real big news here in basketball. So obviously we got that game tomorrow. Should be a big win for Tennessee. Not big in the sense of important, but big in the sense of like a large margin. But big news here is that SEC play starts this week. So Saturday at 2 p.m. On ESPN2, Tennessee plays Arkansas. So this is obviously Coach Barnes against Coach Cal. I'll go ahead and just give us a brief kind of overview for those of you that may not know. Arkansas lost a lot of key players last year in typical Coach Cal fashion. He has a lot of roster turnover. Their best kind of returning player is DJ Wagner at guard. This is a pretty stereotypical Coach Cal team where you're going to have freshmen playing important minutes. And, their best freshman is Darius Acuff Jr. He was a top 10 ranked, high school recruit coming out. So he's a good player. Arkansas ranks similar to us in like the net ranking. They've played similar difficulty opponents and things like that. So I do think this will be a good game.
They've also played just a lot of common opponents.
Right. So I do think this is a good game. I think it will be a good game. I think, we're playing in Fayetteville, so that could have some sort of impact. What are your thoughts on this game, guys, going into it?
I mean, you wrote it in the pregame notes, but Rick owns Calipari, and it's hard. it's hard to not believe that Rick will just figure out a way. They're going to want to run, they're going to want to shoot. Rick's going to have them ready, I think, to play defense and slow the game down a bit, play half court sets, and they hold Arkansas to under 70, and they probably win by, I'd say, 10 or 15 points.
Yeah, good.
Y'all help me calibrate my perception here, because there hasn't been a lot to rejoice in vol football. One of my favorite things to do on X is watch all the Kentucky fans blackpill. And I particularly love the people who are trolling them by pointing out that they got rid of Calipari for this, and totally get it, totally get that too. But that has left me with this impression that's not particularly well informed, I don't think, that Calipari has kind of hit his stride with Arkansas. Am I being just influenced by how bad Kentucky looks and thinking about Calipari as the coach they got rid of, or is that right? Do you think he has his feet under him at Arkansas in a way he maybe? I guess I should specifically ask in a way he didn't in his last couple seasons in Kentucky.
I mean, I'll go. I think it's way easier to play loose for him to coach loose, run the program. He's probably been crowned king as far as that program goes. Operational control, nobody breathing down his neck. And that's just, of course, an incredibly different situation than playing at Kentucky, which is probably the biggest, basketball program in the country. If it's not, Duke or Arkansas, North Carolina's in that conversation, but Kentucky's definitely up there if they're not number one. And so it would be like coaching football at Texas or LSU or Ohio State, and so with no one breathing down his neck, I would say that it probably feels a lot like being back at Memphis, and he can just go get guys, and now it's pay to play, and he's got a good roster, and I think he'll do, I think he's going to do really well at Arkansas. I think that Rick's got his number, so I think he just knows how to play.
Yep.
Yeah, I expect us to win this game too. I'm just wondering what we get out of Calipari. They're legitimately, it's odd to say this in hindsight, but there was a stretch there where I really wasn't worried about Calipari. I really thought Rick had him on lockdown in Kentucky. But if he's got some of his groove back, it could be a more interesting game than it has been, in recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing about that too is, Calipari, even though Arkansas obviously is not considered, a perennial program by any stretch of the means, he did inherit Arkansas probably at their best they've ever been. Eric Musselman had that team pretty good. I think they made the Elite Eight, or I don't feel like it was the Final Four, but they went pretty deep in the tournament a few years ago under Musselman, and Musselman kind of had them playing, a very up-tempo, 3-and-D kind of offense where they, really were just putting a lot of pressure on teams at the perimeter. And so I think Calipari kind of stepped into a perfect situation where he can instill his, his way he likes to play and way he likes to recruit. And had he gone to Arkansas at any other period of their program, it probably would have been a much tougher overhaul for him. But because he inherited it right after Musselman, who did, a pretty good job, I think that he is in a position to get better much faster than people probably anticipated at a program like Arkansas. Joe, what did you have?
I know Joe has got something he wants to say, so I'll hand it off to you in just a second, Joe. But as the designated old guy who can remember the Nolan Richardson Arkansas teams, I can remember as a kid watching them. It's kind of shocking to hear you say that Musselman's like the pinnacle of their program.
I don't even know who you just said. So that does make. I mean, that's my age showing right there, listener. So maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, in my mind,
it's my age showing too. It's my age too.
I'm a tweener. I think there's a great 30 for 30 on him. I can't on that era of Arkansas's program. Can't remember the name of it. Maybe 60 Minutes of Hell or something like that. Whatever he called.
So they ran a full court press, and their games were really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not as tuned into basketball as you guys are, so I'll ask sort of the question and then let you guys, inform me. If Tennessee goes into this game and it comes down to the wire and they win on a last second shot, or it comes down to free throws, and they make their free throws and they end up winning by a 2-point margin, Would you see that as a like an indictment on the program, or indicative that there's real problems? Like they should have handled this team better. What are your thoughts if it's close?
I'll jump on that one. I still think of this team as very much in the development stage, and I'd be very comfortable. I don't think I would be dooming if that scenario played out. I would come out and say we found a way to win on a rough road SEC environment game, and I'd feel okay with that. We should win, but any version of winning feels on schedule to me for what this team is trying to become by March.
Cosign. Couldn't agree more.
Yep, agree.
Yep.
All right, should be a good game then.
Yeah. To Nick's point, though, I looked for some early lines on this. I didn't see much, but I think it's probably going to end up being Tennessee favored around double digits, maybe 8.5, 9, 9.5, something like that. I definitely like what Nick said, kind of the game script Nick laid out. I see us covering that if we play good basketball. But because it's on the road, because I think Coach Cal has some weapons that he hasn't had in last year at Arkansas. I do think it's going to be a tough game. I think Arkansas is going to come out swinging, and then it's just, can we survive the drought? Can we play good defense to get through that? And then can we get back on track late in the game to pull away? So,
what was our last quality opponent before this game?
Louisville.
Louisville, that's okay. Right. And Arkansas just lost to Houston, right?
Yes. They beat Louisville just like we did, but they lost to Houston. So we've got a couple high-quality common opponents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Very good. After that, we have Tennessee playing Texas. This is next Tuesday. This will be on ESPN. I have it on ESPN, but I think it's on ESPN too. This is at 8 p.m. On next Tuesday, January 6th. So we're going to go ahead and talk about this, listener, just because we won't have another podcast between now and then. But I'll go ahead and give another brief kind of overview here. So Texas is in year one of Coach Sean Miller. He was formerly at Xavier. He was there for, the kind of the like 2004 to like 2009, kind of in that stretch. And then he was at Arizona for about 15 years. And so obviously Arizona, we know, is a consistently good program. And then he went back to Xavier for a couple years. And then now he's at Texas. So a coach with a pretty good pedigree there is just taking over Texas. Again, this is year one, so not really sure exactly how good they're going to be. They do have some good returning players. One thing I made note of that I have to mention is that anytime we've played Texas in the last few years, we are forced to watch the ugliest basketball player that's ever played in the history of college basketball, Kendall Weaver. And I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about just by saying that. But if you don't, you will know as soon as you turn the game on who I'm talking about, because this dude is ugly. So keep your eye out for him. It's going to be a hard game to watch when he's on the floor. So anyways, that's just one note that has to be said by Texas. I mean, that dude he's a fine basketball player, but man, dude just was not blessed when it came to looks. So
Google George Muirzon sometime.
Okay, we'll do. Last thing I had on this was just Tennessee's the better team. This is a home game, so you should win this game. At the final score should be comfortable. You should win by 12, 15, something like that. Anything to add there?
I totally agree with what you just said. This would be the game, to Joseph's earlier question, that if we lost this game, I would feel like something was stinky. Something was gone pretty sideways.
I mean, it's at home. They have a few transfers. I mean, I know that's true for everybody now, but they're trying to gel. Our team's already, I think our team's already shown they're a lot better team than a team like Texas. They should beat them in every aspect. They should beat them on the boards. They should outshoot them. They should lock them down on defense. I don't see anything about Texas that should be scary. So,
this is almost like a program stability win,
It's also Texas. Rick Barnes wants to beat Texas. So,
like Josh Heupel in Oklahoma, baby. Oh, wait.
Yeah, we got him the first year.
Stop.
We got him the first year, you boomer doomer.
That's right. On the road, too. But then we lost at home.
How'd it go this year? At home?
Right. Oh man.
Oh, it's terminal.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Final thoughts. I think we're ready to get out of here. So, bowl game tomorrow, 4:30. Hope we get a big win. I think that Tennessee is in a good position to do so. So we'll talk about the Music City Bowl next week. That'll probably be primary focus, and then we'll also discuss the Arkansas and Texas game. Just touch on those as well. Guys, any final thoughts about football, basketball before we kind of do our closing statements?
Yeah, on football, this is very much a tear the Band-Aid off moment for me. Like, I'm just ready to be done with this season, put in the rearview mirror. I want to get to the portal opening because, we're going to have new guys go into the portal after the official announcement. I just kind of want to get to that phase so we can see what's on the far side of that. I feel like college football, as we've known it, is winding down, and it's probably unrealistic. But the kind of hope I have is that Tennessee can get a natty in before whatever the next phase of college football looks like starts. And so with that is kind of my heart's hope. I'm ready to get past this season and be on to whatever comes next.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good segue there. So, Nick, why don't you go ahead and plug our social media, man?
Yeah, so we are on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, and we are at VOLatile_1998. You can check us out. That's where we drop our episodes every Thursday. Of course, because of the bowl game, this one will be a bit earlier with the holidays here and kind of irregular schedules. But typically we drop episodes every Thursday, so you can find our past episodes there, and you'll be able to find our upcoming episodes there as well.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, it's a tired trope on podcasts, but it really does help when people subscribe on YouTube. So I know I've looked at the numbers. It's basically our moms and our friends who are watching. But any of them who love us enough to just press like on your YouTube feed, that would be really helpful. We'd appreciate it.
Thanks, I made this Mom. For my mom and my friends. That's who I made this for. So right. This is already a huge success.
That's right.
And we're meeting our goals. Yeah. Onward and upward.
Yep. Like and subscribing. We're also, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Yep.
We're there. VOLatile Podcast.
Yep. Well, thank you, listener. We will see you next week. Go Vols. And remember, it's terminal.